In this video, I will show how I restored the steering wheel on my 1929 Wippet sedan. As you can see, the wooden rim is in pretty bad shape after being exposed to the elements for at least half a century. It was originally made out of 2 layers of steam-bent wood, laminated together in 2 sections and finger jointed together. This presents a number of interesting woodworking challenges. This is how the finished product will look when it is finished. I will explain the steps along the way. Here is my setup for steam bending. My steam source is a garment steamer. My steam box is simply a short length of 4-inch galvanized duct pipe with a plug with holes in it at the end and dowels run through to support the wood. I covered the pipe with some coveralls to keep the heat in. Here I have had one of the 4 pieces of wood in the steam box for about 80 minutes and I'm ready to bend it. I have a bending form with holes for clamps bolted securely to my workbench. Yikes, that's hot. I have prepared a steel strap with wooden handles on each end. My wood fits snugly in between both handles. I need to clamp one end of the wood piece to the form and secure the handle in place with a bench dog. To successfully bend wood, you need a steel strap on the outside of the wood so that it won't stretch and break, but forces the inside to compress. I'm using red oak. I'm slowly bending the wood around the form. It requires a fair bit of effort even though my wood is only 5/8 inches thick and 1 1/4 inches wide. A long handle gives leverage. I secure it by hooking the handle behind another bench dog. The wood now has to cool for several hours. I'm now taking the wood piece out of the form. It looks good. I need another just like it and 2 more bigger ones so they can be laminated together. I put on a clamp so that it won't unbend. It will need to cure for a day or more. The 2 layers are glued together. I'm using urethane glue, which is waterproof, won't creep, and sets up better if the wood is a bit moist. I now have the 2 halves of the steering wheel rim. The glue is set and needs to be cleaned up. The edges then have to be planed and thicknessed. The temporary scrap center boards are glued in. These stabilize the half rims so they can safely be put through the table saw to cut the finger joints. The blocks glued to the outside are needed to clamp the 2 sections together and to hold it on a faceplate for turning on the outboard of the lathe. I cut the finger joints on my table saw. Originally, these would have been cut on a shaper, which I don't have. These are 1-inch finger joints, and router bits don't come nearly that big. The fingers are cut at a 4-degree angle. The ends of the fingers are the width of the saw kerf. Test blocks of the same thickness were used to test each cut for accuracy. The 2 halves are glued together using the glue blocks for the clamps. The rim is mounted on the lathe and fastened with screws through the glue blocks. The center is turned. It has to be the exact size to fit the metal spider. The outside is cut only partway through so that the glue blocks remain attached. Both faces are cleaned up and trued. I made a template out of 1/4 inch hardboard to cut 1/4 of the finger grips on the inside of the rim at a time. This template is fastened to the rim with nails into the glue blocks. The finger grips were then cut on a router table with a flush trim bit. The outside is trimmed with a bandsaw and cleaned up on the router table with a flush trim bit. All four edges are rounded over with a 1/2 inch round over bit. The finished thickness of the rim is 1 1/8 inches, so the bearing has just enough thickness to run on without the bit digging in. Here is the finished steering wheel. The rim is sanded, stained and finished with exterior polyurethane. It is fastened to the spider with the original screws. The spider only needed some cleaning and rubbing with 4/0 steel wool. It still retains its beautiful 83-year-old patina. The finger joints are almost invisible. After all that effort, it's too bad they don't show up more. Now I just have to finish the rest of this 1929 Willys Wippet.